My boyfriend's family destroyed my career. And now they expect me to thank them for it. I am a 27-year-old woman, and the night my boyfriend's mother lifted her glass and thanked herself for saving my career was the same night my editor's termination email landed in my inbox. We were at a long oak table in a private dining room that smelled like truffle butter and old money. Ethan, my boyfriend, sat on my left, his knee touching mine under the table like reassurance. His mother, Claudia, tapped her spoon against the crystal flute. To family, she said, smiling at me like a spotlight, to stepping in before things got ugly. Some of us don't understand how fragile reputations are until it's too late. Around us, the Arcadia Group, Ethan's family's real estate empire, nodded and murmured. The lighting was warm, a trick designed to make people look generous. I felt my phone vibrate in my bag, a small tremor that made my stomach drop. I knew the shape of that vibration. It meant a long email or a short one that changed your life. I didn't look yet. I watched Claudia. We handled it discreetly, she continued. No headlines, no drama. We kept everyone safe. She was talking about me. About my job. About something she had no right to touch. I used to think the worst part of humiliation was the heat. Turns out, it's the quiet after, the room moving on while you're still catching up to what was taken. The waiter poured more wine. Ethan squeezed my knee again. His father, Laurent, laughed at some small joke his brother made about hungry reporters. I slid my phone out and read the subject line. Termination of employment, effective immediately. The room tilted, just a degree. I opened the email. Following an internal review of a conflict of interest complaint and breach of the ethics policy, your employment with the Metro Investigations Desk is terminated effective today. You will receive 2 weeks severance. Please return company property by Friday. HR will contact you regarding your NDA obligations. No name at the end, just HR, as if shame were best delivered by a faceless hand. My fork clinked against the plate. Ethan leaned in. Everything okay? Your mother, I said, keeping my voice low, steady. What did she do? He blinked, innocent as a boy. What do you mean? Don't, I said, and the word tasted like metal. It started 3 months ago, when I pitched a series to my editor, Maya, about evictions that didn't look like evictions, redevelopment notices, voluntary buyouts, building code violations deployed like chess moves. The Arcadia Group's name kept floating up in city council minutes and court filings, clean on paper, fingerprints nowhere, but present like a watermark. Maya listened with her chin in her hand, then said, "Go slow. Be fair. Bring me documents, not drama." I didn't mention Ethan. We'd met a year prior at a gallery opening I covered for a community column, standing in front of a light installation that looked like bottled summer. He was funny and self-deprecating about his last name. Don't Google, he'd said. I'd like you to meet me before you meet the PR version of me. It sounded like sincerity. Maybe it was. By month 2 of reporting, I had tenants on record, a contractor willing to talk if I didn't print his last name, a city planner who handed me a stack of emails with no FOIA in the subject line like the phrase were a spell. Every time Arcadia's name appeared, it sat beside a shell company like a chaperone. At home, Ethan asked vague questions. Long day? Yes. Anything good? Complicated. Sometimes he'd offer a line that sounded helpful. Developers always take the heat, then switch the subject. He never asked if his family came up. He never asked not to be in the story. He performed the absence of curiosity like a kindness. 2 weeks ago, I got the first anonymous email. Conflict? Might be a little too close to home for you, sweetheart. 2 minutes later, a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile with a red circle around investigations reporter and a white arrow comment, dating the subject is not journalism. The email came from a burner address, no name, no signature, but the text included a line from my private Instagram story, a photo of Ethan's hand holding a coffee with the caption "Proof of Life." My account was locked. My followers were friends, colleagues, family. I sent Maya the email with a note, "Getting noise. I'll forward all of it." It happens when you poke the machine, she replied. Document everything. Stay clean. I'll bring legal in for the pre-pub. The next day, Claudia called me. She never called me. Lunch? She said, like we were old friends. Just us girls. We met at a hotel restaurant where the napkins were heavy enough to be blankets. She wore pale silk and a diamond the size of a teardrop. We exchanged air kisses like the city had taught us etiquette. When the waiter left, she leaned in and touched my wrist with two cool fingers. You're smart, she said. So I'll be direct. The pieces you're planning hurt people. They hurt us. They hurt Ethan. And they won't help the tenants. These stories never do. Stories don't hurt people, I said. What's true hurts people who benefit from lying. She sighed, disappointed teacher. Do you know how many jobs we provide? Do you know what we donate? The housing stock we preserve? You think you're the only one who cares about families? Then you should have nothing to worry about, I said. She smiled without showing teeth. I worry about you. Me? Your position. Your future. Newsrooms are unforgiving. One misstep, and the door closes. You're talented. It would be a shame to waste that. On ethics? I said. On stubbornness, she corrected, and dabbed her mouth with the napkin as if she'd already wiped the conversation clean. I've spoken to some people. Friendly people. They're concerned about optics. They think you might not understand how exposed you are. You called my editor. Of course not, she said, the way people deny things they'd like you to admire them for. I don't meddle. I advise. You don't advise me. She laughed like I was adorable. Everything is connected, darling. That's not a threat. It's a map. We can place you somewhere better. Communications. Foundation work. You'd have resources. Impact. None of this chasing paper trails in damp basements. You're offering me a job so I don't write my job. It's not about you, she said, and I believed her. It was about control, ordered rooms, tables where everyone sits where she puts them. You can't date one of us and pretend you're not one of us. One of you? I said, and the air between us chilled. After lunch, I walked until my shoes hurt. I sent Maya a summary of the conversation. She wrote back, "We'll note it for the editor's letter." Stay cool. The anonymous emails kept coming. Your bias is showing. Sleep your way into the story, write your way out. I deleted that one and then undeleted it so I'd have the paper cut to show later. A lawyer representing a tenants association stopped returning my calls. Bad timing, he said finally, voice tight. My board is skittish. They don't want to be in a pissing match with Arcadia. Find me when the smoke clears. At Ethan's, the smoke was perfume. His sister, Sophie, liked to drop by unannounced and make jokes about the starving artist lifestyle when I said I had to work weekends. We have a place in comms for people like you, she'd say, teasing like a cat. Less adversarial. She doesn't want a job, Ethan would say. She has one. He looked at me when he said it, eyes soft, and a small part of me wanted to lean into that softness and sleep. The next week, HR asked for a meeting. Tom from legal joined, the kind of man who uses words like exposure and prudence and makes them sound like commandments. He slid a printed copy of our ethics policy across the table. We've received a complaint, he said, voice neutral. An allegation of undeclared conflict. Anonymous? Yes. Is the conflict my boyfriend? I asked, choosing the word before they could choose it for me. I haven't named Arcadia to him. I haven't used him as a source. He's not involved in the reporting. I've been transparent with Maya since day one. It's on record. Even so, Tom said, tapping the policy, perception matters. We will need you to step back while we review. No interviews. No outreach. No drafts. How long? Indeterminate. You're killing the story, I said. We're protecting the paper, he said. And you? I walked out feeling half my size. In the lobby, I texted Ethan, HR put me on ice. He called immediately. I'm so sorry, he said. This is about us? About your family, I said. Don't be unfair, he said quickly, like he wanted to be on the right side of the sentence before it even ended. You know how people get when they think power is in the room. They panic. They overcorrect. Your mother had lunch with me and called it advice. She's making calls. She wouldn't, he said, and the way he said it made me know he hadn't asked. That brings me back to the dinner. To Claudia's toast. To the termination email meant to arrive after dessert, I guess, when the small talk had softened me and the brandied cherries had convinced me we were all on the same side of civilized. The waiter cleared plates. Claudia turned to me with a smile that fit the room like furniture. We've been talking, she said. There's an opening at the Arcadia Foundation. Director of Storytelling. You'd be marvelous. You know how to shape narratives. You could help us champion the families we help. Which families? I asked. The ones you buy out or the ones you evict with paperwork? That's such a harsh word, she said, as if language and reality were rival siblings and she liked the prettier one. We relocate. We invest. We're good at what we do. You're excellent at it, I said. So good you got me fired without leaving fingerprints. Ethan hissed my name, warning, plea. Darling, Claudia said softly, the word like a hand placed on the back of my head, you were headed for a fall. We simply put cushions down. You're welcome. She meant it. That was the most disorienting part. She had rearranged my life like furniture and expected gratitude for the improved feng shui. I stood up. My chair's legs scraped the floor loud enough to turn heads. Maya knows everything. Legal knows your lunch. I have emails. Emails that say what? Claudia asked, all silk. That a mother worried about her son's girlfriend? That a family cares? That a company interfered with reporting, I said. That someone with money decided truth was a bad look. Laurent lifted a palm, peacemaker. We're all emotional. Let's not embarrass ourselves. You already have, I said. I left before the dessert wine arrived. In the cab, I reread the termination email until the words blurred. At home, I opened my laptop and started a new document. Title, timeline. Date, time, action. Lunch with Claudia. Anonymous emails. HR meeting. Claudia's toast. I wrote until my fingers cramped, then I called the only lawyer I knew who didn't owe Arcadia a favor, a woman named Lena at a small firm that did labor and media work. Start by backing up your life, Lena said. All emails, texts, notes. Photograph your notebooks. Screenshot everything. Don't record anyone without consent. Don't post. You can send a preservation letter to your former employer so they don't accidentally lose anything. As for the family, do not contact them. If there's a paper trail, we'll find it. If there isn't, we'll build the case around conduct. Tortious interference is a high bar, but not impossible. The first move is not always legal. It's deciding you believe your own notes more than you believe their reality. They offered me a job to make this go away. Of course they did. It's the softest gag. Don't take it. What if I can't get hired? Then we make that part of the damage. But we don't borrow tomorrow's fear to pay today's bill. When I hung up, the room felt larger than my breath. Ethan texted, "Can I come over?" I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I wrote, "Yes." But no PR. He arrived with 2 different kinds of tea because he never remembers which one is my favorite. He stood in the doorway like a boy late to curfew. I didn't know about the email, he said. I swear. My mother told me she handled it. I thought she meant she'd calm things down. She cut my legs out from under me and tells me I fell gracefully, I said. You want me to say thank you? No, he said quickly. No. But, I'm trying to see both sides. They see your story as a threat. You see it as a duty. There are shades here. There are facts, I said. And there are people who make phone calls when facts get inconvenient. What do you want me to do? He asked, palms up, the posture of someone who thinks being willing should count for more than it does. Ask her to admit it, I said. To Maya. In writing. And ask your father to stop calling our sources. He'll never, Ethan said, then caught himself. I'll talk to them. He moved closer. I love you, he said, voice low, like the word could fix the math. Love doesn't replace accountability, I said. He nodded, swallowed, nodded again. I'll try. While he slept on my couch, I sat on the floor and built a wall of printouts. Anonymous email headers. HR's calendar invite metadata. A screenshot of Claudia's lunch reservation from the hotel PR newsletter she'd CC'd me on by accident. A photo of her glass raised in that warm room. Try is such a slippery verb. It looks like motion. Sometimes it's just air. I closed my eyes and kept seeing the subject line, termination of employment, effective immediately. The next morning, I added it to the wall, dead center, and underlined the timestamp. 7:42 p.m., exactly 2 minutes after Claudia's toast. I turned my phone face down. I made coffee. I rehearsed, out loud, the sentence I would need when the family tried to hand me my life with new labels on the boxes. No, thank you. And then I sat down to wait for what their version of trying would cost me next. I am a 27-year-old woman, and the morning I decided to stop asking for their honesty and start collecting my own, the sky was the flat white of paper. I sent 3 emails before 9 a.m. one to HR invoking my right to a full copy of the internal complaint, one to the legal department requesting preservation of all communications referencing me, my story, or conflict, and one to Lena with the subject receipts. She replied in 7 minutes, good. Now let's widen the circle. Anyone you suspect was leaned on? Call them. Don't accuse. Ask what happened in their inbox after you knocked on their door. I started with the city planner who'd slid me the no FOIA stack. He didn't pick up. I left a voicemail that I hoped sounded like a person, not a threat. I called the contractor. He answered on the 3rd ring, breathless. Can't talk, he said. Got a safety inspection. I'll be quick. Did anyone from Arcadia or the council contact you after we spoke? Pause. The sound of movement, boots on gravel? Your number showed up on a screenshot and a text from a blocked ID, he said finally. It said, be careful who you gossip with. I have 3 kids. I can't afford careful to mean broke. I'm sorry. Me too, I said, and wrote it down, screenshot text, intimidation. I called the Tenants Association lawyer. Off the record? He said. A community liaison called my board president and offered to partner on a resource guide if we promised not to litigate evictions tied to redevelopment. Your name came up as hostile. Nobody used the word blackball. They didn't have to. Name of the liaison? Blocked number. But the follow-up email came from an Arcadia Foundation address. Ask your boyfriend's mother who Nadine is. I added Nadine, Arcadia Foundation Outreach, hostile label, to the wall. Ethan wandered in from the couch, hair flattened on one side. You didn't sleep, he said. Sleep is a tax on people with options, I said, half smiling to show I knew I was being dramatic and didn't care. My mother called, he said carefully. She thinks you're escalating. She fired me. I'm building a raft. She insists she only flagged concerns. She used words like optics and exposure, and then my editor used them too. That's not a coincidence, that's choreography. He sat on the floor beside me, shoulder to shoulder. She won't admit it. Then you have to decide if you can love me without needing her story to be true. He didn't answer. At noon, HR sent a PDF of the complaint, 6 pages, heavily redacted, anonymous. Words like objectivity and compromised and breach repeated like a drumbeat. Attached were screenshots, my LinkedIn, a photo of me and Ethan at a charity run, a cropped image of the side of his face in my kitchen, captioned Sundays. The metadata line at the top of the PDF said, compiled by T. Han, Compliance. The footer said the complaint had been forwarded to HR from external counsel on behalf of a concerned stakeholder. External counsel. Not a reader. Not a source. A lawyer. I googled the firm name. The first result was a glossy site for Allerton Chase, a boutique shop specializing in crisis communications and reputation management. Clients, global brands, family offices, high net worth individuals. The partners page featured Claudia, smiling in a testimonial. Allerton Chase has been our trusted advisor for over a decade. I sent the link to Lena. She wrote back, that's not neutral. Preservation letter to them too. At 3 p.m. my doorbell rang. A courier handed me a thick envelope. Inside, a letter from Arcadia's general counsel demanding that you cease and desist from defaming the company and its officers and reminding me of my NDA with the paper. There was also a second envelope with a softer voice, a mutual resolution proposal from the Arcadia Foundation offering me a 1-year, well-paid fellowship to study community narratives with a clause at the end about non-disparagement. The salary was more than I had ever made. I put both letters on the table like snakes I wasn't going to touch. Ethan came by in the evening with a bag of my favorite takeout, like feeding me could pad the edges of what we had to say. He watched me reading and not eating. This is standard, he said cautiously. They do this with anyone who goes after them. It's not personal. It is literally personal, I said, tapping the fellowship letter. It has my name and the price they think I'll sell it for. They think they're helping, he said, and almost recoiled at his own words. I know how that sounds, but they live in a world where problems are solved with money and placement. This is their language. Learn mine, I said. It starts with no. He exhaled so slowly it sounded like wind through a door. I talked to my mother, he said. I told her she crossed a line. She said you're being ungrateful. She said we rescued you from a scandal. She said you should thank us because you would have been fired sooner or later. She created the scandal, I said. Then offered me a towel. She also said, he hesitated. She said if you go public, she'll protect the family. With what? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I pictured the creepy reporter narrative, the unstable girlfriend narrative, the angry woman with an axe to grind narrative. They all fit neatly in their machine. Do you love me? I asked, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. Yes, he said, like a reflex and a choice at once. Then do not ask me to be grateful for my own silencing. His face worked through 3 expressions I'd never seen. What if I can't fix this? He said. Maybe your job isn't to fix it, I said. Maybe it's to stop making it worse. The next week was a sequence of doors closing and one opening where I expected none. 3 job applications sent into the void. 2 polite rejections that smelled like lawsuits and were not prepared to take on your situation. A text from a former colleague at an independent outlet, come by. We want to talk. I went. The newsroom was small, lived in a way that felt honest, mismatched chairs, a plant turning itself toward a window, a whiteboard with names and arrows. The editor, Sarah, listened to me for an hour and then said, we can't hire you full-time. But we can publish an essay, carefully, about the cost of reporting in a town where power has good lawyers. No names. Your voice. I don't want a pity piece, I said. Then don't write one, she said, smiling. Write a record. And get your lawyer to bless every sentence. I told Lena. She grimaced, then nodded. It's risky, she said. But it's also the only thing that beats a narrative machine, another narrative, backed by receipts. I spent 2 days writing and another 2 cutting. Every adjective that could be argued into a threat, gone. every sentence tied to a date or a document. I wrote about anonymous ethics complaints, about concerned stakeholders, about lunches where language was used to move furniture and call it kindness. I wrote about men who think reputations are porcelain and women who are hired to glue the hairline cracks no one else sees. I wrote, they offered me a fellowship to study the stories of communities they'd price out of their homes. I didn't write Arcadia. I didn't write Claudia. I wrote what happened. Sarah's lawyer shaded the edges, Lena approved the map. We published on a Tuesday morning. The headline, When the Story Fights Back. By noon, my inbox was a mess of strangers' bravery and venom. This happened to me at a hospital system. This is why I left journalism. You're a liar. You're a hero. I ignored the binary. I answered the ones with dates and names and offers to testify someday if I needed. I forwarded 3 to Lena. I sent the link to Maya with a short note, you weren't the enemy. She replied with a single line, I know. Be safe. HR sent me a new letter demanding I remove the essay. Sarah's lawyer wrote back with a paragraph that translated to no. Arcadia's counsel escalated, a threat of immediate injunctive relief. Lena replied with 12 pages that made their threat look like a paper tiger. The fellowship offer was withdrawn, in light of your recent choices, as if their money had ever been anything but a leash folded into a velvet box. Ethan read the essay at my kitchen table and cried. Not big movie tears, small, quiet ones that made him look suddenly younger, like the boy he'd been before he learned the family language. I knew they were intense, he said. I didn't know it looked like this from the outside. It looks like this from the inside, I said. Can we survive this? He asked. I can, I said. Can you? He didn't answer that day. He kissed my forehead like a promise and left. The next morning, he came back with a duffel and a face that had made a decision. I told them I'm moving out, he said. She said I'm choosing a stranger over blood. I'm not a stranger, I said. I'm the person you've been sleeping beside for a year. She meant her, he said, and closed his eyes like he could shut her voice out. I know this doesn't fix anything. I don't want to become your second job, teaching me how to not be them. I don't need you to be not them, I said. I need you to be you without their script in your mouth. We tried to build a life that wasn't a reaction. We made dinner and didn't talk about court filings. We went on a walk and didn't point at cranes cutting the skyline. He texted his mother and didn't tell me what she said. I saved money and took freelance fact-checking. Sarah gave me a small monthly column about systems. It paid late and badly and felt like air. Then Arcadia's machine did what machines do. A gossip newsletter ran a blind item, ambitious journo spins sob story after getting canned for ethics breaches. A client forwarded it to a client who forwarded it to a cousin who forwarded it to my mother, small city math. My mother called, voice tight as thread. Are you okay? Did you do something wrong? I wrote about people with money, I said. They wrote back with money. I wish you worked somewhere gentle, she said, and I knew she meant a library, a school, a place where stories are laminated and filed instead of set on fire. Me too, some days, I said. I was in Lena's office when the thing I had been waiting for like bad weather finally arrived, an internal Arcadia email packet attached to a whistleblower message from someone using a Proton alias. The subject line, you should have this. The body, because everything is connected. The attachments, 3 emails. One from Claudia to Allerton Chase, objective, neutralize the girlfriend's threat without creating a martyr. Draft language 4, concerned stakeholder, complaint attached. Another from Allerton to Arcadia's general counsel, we filed with HR recommend offer of fellowship to de-escalate and create mutually beneficial narrative. The third, a calendar invite titled Lunch, C, Café Royale, D, reporter, with the note frame as mentoring. Lena read them twice. This is your hinge, she said. Is it enough? It's enough to put letters on paper they can't ignore. We sent a notice of claim, tortious interference, interference with prospective economic advantage, defamation by implication. Not a lawsuit yet. A statement of intent with the receipts stapled so thoroughly they bled through the page. We didn't send it to the press. We sent it to Arcadia, to Allerton, to the paper's council as a courtesy. 2 days later, a very different courier arrived. Inside, a letter with less threat, more regret. We are prepared to resolve this matter amicably. A number on the second page. Not the fellowship number. More. A clause about confidentiality. A clause about no admission of wrongdoing. A request that I take down the essay. I took the letter to Sarah and Lena and then to my kitchen floor. Ethan read it and said, "This is how they make it go away. You'll get money. They'll get silence. Everyone will call it maturity. Do you want me to take it?" "No," he said, without hesitation, and I believed him. "I want you to do what lets you sleep." I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I wrote back, "I will not remove the essay. I will not agree to silence. I will accept compensation for documented damages and a letter acknowledging interference with my employment without naming parties." Lena winced at that last phrase. "They'll never." "Then we go," I said. "Not for fury. For record." 2 weeks later, we settled. The letter we got wasn't the one I wanted, but it was an artifact that will outlast their posts. We acknowledge that actions taken by individuals acting on behalf of a client created the appearance of interference in Ms.'s professional activities. Appearance. The safest word. But it lived on letterhead. I framed it and put it behind my desk where only I could see. The check cleared. It didn't put me back where I'd been. It could not buy back the morning Claudia raised her glass. Money is an apology for the part people are willing to admit to. The rest is work. Ethan and I lasted another month. We didn't break because he asked me to. We broke because every conversation had a fourth chair in it with his mother's voice in the upholstery. He moved into a small apartment near the river and sent me a text that began, "I'm sorry I wasn't bigger than them," and ended with, "Call me if you ever want me to listen." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't love him. Because love that requires you to say thank you for being made small is not love, it's costume. People still expect me to be grateful. Not just his family. People at parties who say, "At least you got a great essay out of it." People on panels who ask, "Do you think you were biased?" People who nod solemnly and then ask if I've considered corporate communications, because you're so good with words. Sometimes I smile and say nothing. Sometimes I say, my career wasn't content for someone else's brand strategy, and watch them blink like they've never seen a sentence with sharp edges. I teach a weekly workshop now for high schoolers who think journalism is both necessary and doomed. On the first night, I tell them, write like someone will try to make you doubt your own notes. Keep the notes anyway. Learn the law. Find your people. Expect the blow. Decide in advance what you won't sign. After class, a girl with a shy mouth waits while the room empties. "My boyfriend's dad runs a company," she says. "Is it bad if I want to write about something they do?" "It's not bad to want the truth," I say. "It's dangerous to let someone else tell you what it is." She nods like she's cataloging a tool. Sometimes I pass the restaurant where Claudia and I had lunch. The windows are mirrors in daylight, reflecting the street back at itself. I think about going in, ordering the soup, leaving a note with the bill, "I don't owe you gratitude for burning my house down." I don't. I go to the cafe next door, where the tables wobble and the tea tastes like nothing and the barista knows my name the way people know you when they've watched you come back from something. I don't know if I'll ever get back the version of my career that existed before the email at 7:42 p.m. Sometimes grief arrives like that, in a timestamp. But I have a wall of documents, a letter in a frame, a column that pays late, students who write like their hands are on fire, and the knowledge that if someone raises a glass and says "we saved you," I can put mine down and walk away. I don't thank people for setting traps and calling them safety nets. When people ask me what happened, I say, my boyfriend's family destroyed my career. They wanted me to clap for it. Instead, I wrote it down. That's the only gratitude I had left to give, to the truth, and to the part of me that refused to be hired to bury it.
Follow me for more stories.